So all this came to a head on October 14th in Illinois, where a 6-year-old boy was killed by his landlord, an elderly man by the name of Joseph Kazuba, or Zuba, probably Czuba, probably no disrespect, Polish.
I think Liz is the resident Polish expert here.
Yeah, Kazuba.
No,
but
you'd think, but apparently Brace knows everything about the Polish.
Chuba, I want to say, because like the Czechs. Anyways, he's a piece of shit. And the story is fucking heartbreaking, right? And I feel like is so, I don't know. It's what I think what really gets me about it. I mean, what really gets me about it is the fact that a child was murdered. But what is so extraordinary about it is it's one of those things where like a child was just straight up murdered. And it looks like a lot of the reasoning was because of this hysteria, both around the Day of Jihad and just like post October 7th, anti-Palestinian, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim stuff. His mother was Palestinian, his father, I believe, was Jordanian. But it's like this child was killed, and there's this like kind of like very brief outpouring of like support for the family. But it becomes a little strange in the context of the national policy towards Israel, because the kid's father even says like Joe Biden. In fact, I think I have the quote right here. Joe Biden called me crying, telling me about the son that he lost. His wife was also on the phone crying. Odai said, that's the father of the child that was murdered. He said, we need to meet and we can help. Then later he hung up and announced more U.S. support for Israel on the same night. U.S. support that would very famously go to Israel in the form of bombs and money for more bombs that were killing more children. And I thought that was the thing that was like so strange about this. To see all these U.S. politicians talking about the murder of this one child and then wholeheartedly supporting the murder of all these other sort of faceless, sometimes literally faceless children in Gaza, kind of speaking out of the same mouth with these. It's extraordinary. So what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, this actually wasn't the only violent incident that happened around the Day of Jihad. There was another incident, but the other ones, it was unclear whether it was just general, like, anti-Palestinian hysteria or the Day of Jihad specifically. There wasn't that much reporting. There was somebody who, actually former Democratic candidate for office, which is attacked a pair of teenage girls and grabbed one of them by the neck and threw her phone and to smash it because she had written "Free Gaza" on a beach, in the sand. And then there was another incident in Pennsylvania where some guy pulled a gun on a mother and child at a protest and yelled "You guys love Hamas and hate Jews," allegedly, because he was the Democratic candidate was convicted. This guy was not yet. And but this is the obviously the most violent case where somebody, and look, right, it's this guy obviously has something wrong with him, but the Day of Jihad gave him some thing for his paranoid fantasies to latch onto and directed his rage towards his tenants. And so these people who he had been actually very friendly with, who were living in his property, he ended up just. So it actually happened after the Day of Jihad. Nothing happened. He was the guy was telling his wife, he had taken money out of the bank saying the grid was going to go down. He was really riled up and ready for something to happen. And then when it didn't, the next day he told his wife, something's still going to happen. And then it did, because he killed he tried to murder his tenants and he murdered one of them.
Yeah. I mean, I really read a bunch because I followed this when it happened, but in the past couple of days, I've reread a bunch of stories about it. Patch.com, I don't know what the fuck that's out of, but they had a lot of reporting on it. He knocks on the door because he rents these 2 rooms out to this mother and her child. She's divorced from her husband. He lives elsewhere in Illinois. And he knocks on the door at 11:30 in the morning and just starts haranguing her about Israel Palestine. And she's weirded out and says she says, let's pray for peace. And then he just starts fucking stabbing her, which is just so. I mean, I think there's an irony there because I think it mirrors sort of the worst of what Palestinians are portrayed as, right? as like just bloodthirsty, you know, like killers stalking around with knives. He fucking goes and stabs her. She like falls on the ground, thinks he leaves, goes to the bathroom and locks herself in and calls the police, and then comes out and finds her son with a fucking knife sticking out of his abdomen. And the you know, Joseph Kazuba is in the fucking backyard waiting for the police, and gets picked up. And it's just like, I don't know. There's something about it. Like, I can see how this sort of thing goes down. We don't know exactly all the details. Like, I mean, you probably know more than I do, but like, you know, it seems like there is a lot of indication that he was just spent like the past week really obsessively listening to like right-wing radio, you know, like inviting all of these like, you know, insane paranoiac news services, whatever, fucking pundits, whatever. And he just went nuts and snapped on these people he'd been renting a room for two rooms to for 2 years.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the idea of like the bloodthirsty Palestinian with a knife is the image the media has been pushing, and it became because right, that's the thing about the Day of Jihad that made it different from past war on terror hysteria. It's not like, oh, Al-Qaeda is plotting to blow up the train, and this is like a specific plot by specific people and organizations, and you have to find the sleeper cells. This is even more sinister. This is like they sent out a bat signal for jihad, and you don't know which of your Muslim neighbors are just going to spontaneously like take up the signal and start attacking you personally. And so, yeah, I mean, look, over the past year, there has been a lot of this theme of like a preemptive atrocity, right? They want to do atrocities to you, so you have to do it to them first. And I think one thing that people in the West often miss is like that's how atrocities happen.